Hello, this is your average Joe, and having to do my ramble in the car a little bit differently. Turns out I can no longer do mobile live streams, as YouTube has changed that. So that way only people with 1,000 or more subscribers can do a mobile live stream. So now I'm going to pre-record videos and put them up. So, as always, apologize for the lack of anything to look at. But I hope that the sound of my voice and the words I have to say are more than adequate for the message I am conveying. And today, what I wanted to talk about was this very interesting concept of the shifting social dynamics in our society. And it's something I talked about a little bit before, but this is more of an update, really. And it comes from the fact that part of the reason why I haven't put videos out for 2 weeks is the first week I was the last 3 weeks actually, I was getting ready for a trip, went on the trip out of town. I had a lot of fun, got sick, so that was the last week, and the reason why I didn't post anything is I didn't want to sound overly nasally or, cough into a microphone. I understand that's not exactly desirable, so that put me off a little bit longer. But there was something very interesting I noticed on my little excursion out of town, and actually since I've gotten back from spring break and gotten back into school. And that is, there is a stark difference in how the social climate is before and after this event, after spring break, actually. That week off, I come back and everything's different. It's shifted. And what I find is very interesting is the very, because I remember there was a while ago on a listening post, and I believe it was MGTOW Thread, was the one. It was either MGTOW Thread or MGTOW Warrior. I apologize, I don't remember this exactly. But they made a comment on, I cannot wait for the day to come where red pill men, MGTOW men, will be able to identify each other just by looking. And we'll sit down and have a coffee, talk, have a chat. And I think that's very interesting because when I went on this trip, I went with a few friends of mine, all guys, and it was a road trip. We went over to Chicago for a little bit of a fun, gathering kind of thing, spent a lot of money, drank a lot, one of those kind of things. And all of us come from different walks of life. What I thought was very interesting was, as I'm sitting there, talking and hanging out and goofing off, I actually ended up having that experience where the MGTOW men, the red pill men, the men who do not see society in the terms of the blue lens that most other men look at. No, it was the red pill men grouped up, started talking. Of course we didn't draw attention or didn't do anything like that, but it was kind of interesting because the one guy, because we're sitting there, we're talking and, kind of making comments back and forth about some red pill, ideas and truths. And finally one guy comes out and he says, you guys ever heard of MGTOW? MGTOW? And we all stop. And in that moment of silence, then there was that recognition. For a second, it was like you didn't quite understand what just happened, and then it hits you. You're actually having this conversation in real life with complete strangers. And when we start talking about MGTOW and red pill, of course not getting into, too deep into it, obviously, but it's happening. We've reached that point. And I'm also going to throw out there as well that there was another instance that happened this week, or that week in particular, and even this week, was the amount of married men that I was, coming into contact with, drinking, hanging out, having fun, trying to convince me not to get married, telling me, don't get married, telling me about the bullshit and the horror and the little itty-bitty little problems, these things that pop up, these things that you aren't told about, these things you aren't told about when you have to deal with relationships. Then I asked a question. If you had not met your wife yet, you had to go on a date right now, would you date in today's climate, today's social climate? And it doesn't matter the political affiliation, doesn't matter the party, doesn't matter the history, doesn't matter the job, doesn't matter the drink. I mean, literally, the tastes, the clothing styles, the walks of life, it did not matter in a single one of these instances, because every single one of them said absolutely not. The truth is coming out. And more men are finally seeing the truth, the actual ugliness of modern society. And as TFM puts it, and as other MGTOW content creators put it, the question does become, at what point do we finally reach that line where men finally go, all right, enough? I'm not going to put an exact date on it, but I will say that with how many men are getting red-pilled faster and faster, or how many men, even if they're not fully red-pilled, even if they're, kind of that purple pill stage, it's happening more and more. This population is growing, and it's growing very quickly. So, and in fact, I've even noticed since I've gotten back onto college campuses, the amount of men that are red-pilled on college campuses. Because I've heard conversations since I've gotten back from females, because you can't help but, listen sometimes when there's nothing else going on and you're in a quiet room and there's two people talking, and they're complaining. They're complaining that no guy approached them on spring break. They're complaining that no men are talking to them. Or if the guys do talk to them, it's literally just about the assignment in class, nothing more, nothing less. They're complaining about not getting attention from men, and I've seen it on social media too. There's more and more women now coming out and complaining. No men will approach me, no men will come near me. I mean, in a utterly brilliant, gold, so perfect. We could start an economy off of this moment, because that is how gold this is. Charlize Theron comes out and declares, I am dateable, please date me. I am 43, can a man please go on a date with me? That is incredible. That is gold. That is, if anything, such a stark bomb on Generation Spinster. And yes, millennial women will be Generation Spinster. I see it already in the classrooms. I see it in public spaces. These girls, especially as they're moving into their 30s, they're going to get desperate. They're going to get, extremely desperate here very soon. And you're going to see it become more and more common, where women are literally going to beg to go on dates, to get married, to have children, to be noticed by men. And here's my message, my opinion on the matter. Don't give it to them. And if you are one of those men that eventually, weakness and temptation, gets the best of you and you finally decide to do that, skip that generation. Go on to the next one. Do not give Generation Spinster an inch. Let them go down in history as a stark reminder, a lesson to be learned. This is the price of a gynocentric tyranny. An entire generation of women forgotten. Now, men are suffering right now. Men are being made more and more disposable. I've seen stories come out where you have literally baby boys being aborted because mothers don't want a boy, they want a girl. You have young men and young children, young boys being attacked and ridiculed and shamed for, showing any kind of boyish behavior. You have young men right now being attacked in colleges and driven out of STEM fields. And I'm here to tell you, that's very real. Because the attitude, it's not like a direct attack. It's not like shame on you, get out of here kind of thing. Oh no, it's an attitude. What are you doing here? Who let him in? Who is this man who dares come into our college, our classroom? And should you be a man who is not a simpering cuck or a blue pill white knight or a man who believes in socialist values and, we just need to make things free, UBI for everyone. If you're not one of those guys, you're looked at with hatred, poisonous hatred. It's so bad that even liberal professors are kind of looking at these students like, what the hell are you doing? In any case, I just wanted to share that with you guys, that the word is beyond just YouTube, beyond just social media. It's reached real life, and even though they're attacking content creators on YouTube and social media, the message, the lessons, the teachings, they're already out there in the real world. And this is really where, as When in Doubt MGTOW has been talking about, this is where Project Mayhem kind of begins, is men living the lesson now. And I think I see quite a few men living red pill lessons and knowledge. They're not approaching girls. They're not talking to them. It's not so much as just ghosting, but it's literally avid self-preservation, doing the bare minimum. Not, like, for example, as I'm sitting in a parking lot right now, I notice that there's other people sitting in their cars, and it's all men. There are other places to sit, there's other buildings to go into, but they're all filled with women. How very progressive of us that men are literally so terrified of consequence of any action that they will so rampantly avoid sitting in other places. I personally do this because I enjoy peace and quiet, but I can also see that there's a definite attitude here. So, in any case, really what I think this is going to come down to is where the line really truly is, how bad things really have to get for an actual change to occur. Don't get me wrong, this will carry on at least into the next century, the repercussions of the last century, actually. So it's not just the last few decades, it's the last century that this has been occurring, and this will carry on the next 100 to 150 years. But, I find that fascinating, that how quickly we've reached this point. So, As always, thank you for listening, and I look forward to making more videos for you guys. This is your average Joe, reminding you, the truth cannot be denied.